Hi, I'm John Duncan from Telluride Angler here at Scott Fly Rods today with longtime rod designer Jimmy Bartschi to kind of give us an insider's view of the design and production methods of Scott's fabulous G2 fly rods.
Hi, John. Thanks.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, the G2 is a rod that we set out to design. A lot of trout fishing takes place with small flies and very fine tippets. A lot of trout are leader wary. They don't respond well to larger tractor patterns, and sometimes you need to get a little more technical to get the job done. And this rod was designed specifically to fish in those kinds of conditions to those kinds of fish. And so we're going to take you back in the shop and show you how we build these, really point out the hollow internal ferrule and how that really contributes to the smooth action of the G2.
Yeah, it's a key component of it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, these are our favorite trout rods for fishing around Telluride and beyond, so this will be exciting for anglers to get an insider's view of how these rods are actually made.
Great. This is that we measure our tolerances in hundredths of an inch. And that kind of precision is required if you're going to get a consistent rod time after time.
Scott rods always feel so married to their line weights. A 4-weight is always a 4-weight, a 5-weight is always a 5-weight. In the hands of the angler, that makes a big difference, not just in function, but also in form.
Absolutely, and that comes from material choice, mandrel design, pattern design, precision in cutting, and then testing once the blank is finished. It's really critical to hold tolerances on these, and that's why we hand cut small stacks rather than machine cut.
Jim, and I know in a lot of our fly rods, we actually use a combination of materials.
Yeah, John. In fact, in our freezer, we have 7 different materials right now.
Wow. Different
fibers, resins, different aerial fiber weights. And in many of our fly rods, we use a combination of materials. Some up to 3 different graphites going in different directions.
Wow.
And that allows us to put stiffness and or reinforcement in different parts of the blank and lets us really fine tune the flex profile of the rod.
Wow, that's pretty complicated.
Takes a lot of extra work to do, but we think it's worth it in the end result. So this is a critical step when we tack the mandrel to the pattern. We want to make sure that every fiber is oriented perfectly. Any fibers that get off axis or twist could compromise the rod. And so we take great care and do this by hand very slowly to make sure that it's set up perfectly before it's rolled.
Wow, this is true hand craftsmanship with great precision.
And John, this is quite a piece of equipment. It's we can control all kinds of settings. We control the speed, we control the air pressure, we control the temperature. We can set this precisely for the taper that we're rolling and the diameter. We have a multi-point inspection process when our parts come out of the rolling room. Before we'll even work on them and start turning them into a blank, we test them for structural integrity, for cosmetics on the surface, for straightness, for weight, and make sure that they adhere to all of our tolerances. It's a really rigorous selection process, and we make sure that the parts we're gonna turn into blanks really meet our highest standards.
Jimmy, here we see some of the true design magic of Scott fly rods, the internal ferrules being fit.
And what we're doing here is actually generating heat from the friction of twisting it. And the lip is the most sensitive part that you can detect the heat with, and the heat will tell you where it's bearing.
That is crazy.
And then that allows us to really precisely do the final taper match of outside diameter to inside diameter.
Outside diameter of the ferrule spigot
Yes.
to the inside diameter of the tip part.
Exactly. It takes a lot of skill, and it takes a lot of time.
Jimmy, tell me something about the production of our Cork grips. I've noticed a couple of things about the grips on Scott rods over the years. One is that Scott uses the highest quality cork in the industry. I mean, you can tell Scott rods at a distance by lining up a bunch of fly rods and pointing to them on the rack. The Scott grips look better, are made from higher quality cork, and feel sweeter in the hand than anything else out there.
Well, John, that really comes from a commitment to sourcing the best materials. What we do is we buy the top 5% of the year's harvest. So while we can't always say our cork is the very best you've ever seen, we can say it's the best that you can get.
Wow.
And what they do is they punch these rings out We glue the rings together into a length and amount that we want to turn, and then on a lathe we turn the shape that we want to put on the rod. Whether we're making a grip or a reel seat insert like we are here, we take it down successively with a coarse rasp and then through 3 grades of sandpaper. It's a lot of feel and eye and touch. And then, of course, we use calipers to get a real precise sizing on it. We hand taper bore every single grip and match it exactly to the blank it's going on. So we get a really precise fit between the cork and the blank. No air pockets. We really want that grip to be connected to the rod, so your hand is connected to the rod.
Is the rod maker dead reckoning the specs here?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's just skill and experience.
Oh yeah, it's all skill and experience.
That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
And we've designed about 14 unique grip shapes depending on the rod and the application. So we even put a lot of thought into the design of our grip and what the rod is used for.
Right, we put a different grip. Scott puts a different grip on every series of rods.
Oh, absolutely. And even within a series, based on line weight differentiation, we might turn a slightly different grip just to match and just to get the perfect feel in your hand.
I think that's a huge point. The grip is your physical connection to the fly rod and to the sport itself.
Absolutely.
So the feel is everything.
It's everything.
Wrapping the guides and wrapping the ferrules is one of the classic hand craftsmanship processes in building these rods.
Absolutely. In fact, every rod with the Scott name on it is still hand wrapped. We don't use machine wrappers. We think that we can control our tension, make sure there's no gaps in the thread, make sure our specs and measurements are super precise by doing it by hand. And there's a great tradition in the art of rod building that goes along with hand wrapping.